My name is Aletha, and my practicum was within the graduate college, the department tasked with overseeing the creation or updates to graduate programs, as well as a number of other tasks such as processing embargoes or approving the format of a dissertation or thesis, for example. Staff within the provost office do these tasks for undergraduate programs. In this presentation, I will go over practicum responsibilities, helpful tools, the culture of the office, leadership styles, program competencies, and research questions. On my first day, my supervisor showed me a really cool resource that the graduate college uses known as MZ. MZ is a website that pulls data to evaluate things like demographics, program curriculum demand, and more. Typically, the graduate college uses the website to pull reports that are then used to support the development of new programs at ASU. I will talk more about this on the next slide. After that, I really began by reading through the graduate college's website to see what forms were available for departments and colleges to submit when they needed to make updates to one of their programs. This includes updates such as establishing or disestablishing a program or concentration, changing admission requirements such as the minimum GPA to be accepted, or if a graduate record examination was required, for example. I studied the ASU Academic Catalog Style Guidelines. I remember being intrigued that you would write BA in anthropology with the A of anthropology being lowercase and not with the A being capitalized. In short, it felt like learning another language as I was becoming familiar with the exhaustive rules surrounding academic updates and formatting. So upon being familiarized with the Academic Catalog Style Guide, I then was tasked with updating academic catalog entries based on approved memorandums. I also created memorandum templates for graduate program changes and attended the catalog review kickoff meeting to update units and colleges about changes being made to the process or formatting. I read through proposals to establish concentrations or new programs and made suggestions on ways the unit or college could improve their proposal. For example, a proposal for a concentration in cybersecurity mentioned that establishing such a concentration would help with pressing issues. I suggested the unit provide more details to what pressing issues the unit was referring to. It is those who work within the graduate college's responsibility to review proposals and make sure enough data is provided to show a need for such programs. The provost will then defend the establishment of a concentration or program in front of the Arizona Board of Regents. Additionally, I learned that the format review process for a dissertation and thesis. In a few slides, I will briefly mention a useful tool for those who plan on pursuing their EDD or PhD at ASU. Another fun task was when I had the opportunity to play around with the new iPause and give feedback to improve the tool. And lastly, I phoned in for meetings such as the Curriculum and Academic Programs Committee meeting and worked on random projects researching programs. MZ is a website that pulls data and is used to support the establishment of programs at ASU. It costs around $5,000 per year for a license to use. Some colleges at ASU, such as the Ira A. Fulton School of Engineering, purchase their own license. The graduate college purchases MZ in order to support smaller units or colleges that cannot afford to purchase a license. It pulls data in real time from websites like Monster, Indeed, U.S. Census Bureau, and the Department of Labor. What was interesting to me is that you can manipulate the data by adding or changing keywords or CIP codes of majors. For example, we were looking to pull a report to support the development of an investigative journalism master's degree program at ASU. And by simply adding the major criminal justice, the number of future jobs significantly increases. The format advisors have the responsibility to produce data that supports the establishment of new programs, and therefore, because you can manipulate data, data has the potential to be construed. When playing around with IMSI, I pulled a report evaluating the higher and post-secondary education master's program at ESU. I thought it was interesting that the top skills that appeared in job postings at the time of pulling the report are very similar to the skills listed in articles that Herdline, Reifler, and Muroka examined. As you can see, the 6 skills highlighted in pink on each list appeared word for word. Very briefly, on the Graduate College's webpage, you can find a tool that helps you set up the format of your thesis or dissertation. In Figure 6, you can click on the different tabs to see more information and examples of how certain features should be formatted or appear. In Figure 7, you can go through a process of 8 steps and enter in different information, such as your abstract and chapter names, and the tool will generate a document for you with the correct formatting. As for the office culture, the office space of the graduate office is divided with offices on both sides of a hallway. The hallway is extremely cold, but once you enter the office space, it is very warm and cozy and oddly structured. There are ASU decals all throughout the office. Likewise, many staff have the same ASU calendar hung by their desk with historic pictures of the campus and important dates highlighted. While most staff do not directly work with students, the decals and calendars are artifacts that serve as a reminder of what the office's larger purpose is. The articulated goals of the department that have come up time and time again are how can the office improve this process, or what information is needed so that college or units are successful in implementing their goals. Whether this be a new program or a research project to create a list to determine what other programs are doing what so that inquiring college or unit can decide what they should be doing. For example, what is the minimum GPA needed to get into a program? In addition, the format advisors have recently begun to hold workshops and consultations for students and staff interested in knowing more about formatting guidelines in order to create better communication amongst those the department serves. Finally, the underlying assumptions that I perceive that are the warm, cozy, quiet environment creates an atmosphere where staff can really focus on the detail-oriented job duties they are tasked with. Staff do this at their own pace, thus the environment allows for a lot of autonomy. When I started, this took some time to get used to as I had no experience and had the expectation that someone would explain to me in great detail the rules and guidelines behind the work the department does, rather than me reading the manuals and websites at my own pace. Having ample autonomy was really an adjustment for me. Likewise, the graduate team has many potlucks, and for Halloween, you could purchase a bag of candy and boo a teammate. The teammate would not know who the bag of candy was from, and needless to say, there was a lot of booing going on within the office. For this, I draw the assumption that even with autonomy, the department really emphasizes being a team. Also, I noticed that the one phone meeting with the provost's office that I was present for, the provost's office dominated the conversation while the graduate college had the phone on mute, communicating to me that the two departments are separate and limited collaboration is occurring. As for leadership style, since my practicum supervisor sat in an office away from where I was stationed and I had limited interaction with her, I had little insight as to her leadership style. When I first started, I had the expectation that my supervisor would be very involved in training me. However, that was not the reality. It was after some time that a format advisor really began to stand out as my leader. She began by directing me with tasks. In particular, I remember her asking me to evaluate a proposal to establish a concentration and to make suggestions to the unit on how they could improve their proposal before the provost defended it in front of the Arizona Board of Regents. After I completed the task, she sat down with me and went through section by section, reviewing the proposal and my comments. She then explained why my comments were valid or not needed in a very supportive manner by saying that my comments were very thoughtful. The advisor was able to interpret my low level of confidence in evaluating a proposal, but my desire to learn and understand. Due to the nature of the practicum and the time constraint, her leadership style never really reached the supporting stage. While the ACPA and ASPA competencies are for the student affairs side of higher education, and my practicum focuses more on the academic side, there are a few competencies that I feel relate to my experience. I will not discuss all of the competencies I have listed, but will note that the law, policy, and governance rubric really stood out to me, in particular the governance systems. For example, I have become more familiar with the daunting approval process of establishing a new degree program. There are essentially 10 steps from approval, including the academic plan to the unit, to the university senate, to the curriculum and academic programs committee, to the provost, and more. And they can jump back and forth between the different players involved in getting a new degree program approved. And these are just a few. As for the skills highlighted in Figure 10, I would like to point out that in particular, I have gained a greater understanding of data-driven decision-making. This is a skill that stands out the most to me. A significant amount of my job duties I did incorporated analyzing data and using MZ as a tool to help provide such data. I really enjoyed learning to navigate MZ and to see current and future predictions related to career options, skills, number of jobs, and more for a specific program. Likewise, while my practicum did not give me directly the ability to be innovative, I got to experience how colleges and units were being creative in the programs they were establishing and the communication that was occurring university-wide to accomplish such goals. To demonstrate, last year the University of Arizona only established one new graduate program, while ASU established somewhere around 18. For the first research question I have listed, ASU has a policy that an embargo is good for 2 years and that the student can renew once for a total of 4 years. At a conference my supervisor attended in Denver, embargoes were a hot topic. An example was given that it took a graduate student in the medical field nearly 10 years to get a medication approved by the FDA. With this in mind, is ASU's embargo policy enough, and do graduate students have enough resources available to them to make the decision on whether or not to embargo their dissertation? That's why I would suggest the research question, what are the best practices Arizona State University should take to aid graduate students when deciding to embargo their dissertation? And secondly, since data can be manipulated by MZ, I think it would be useful to follow up in the future with the programs that are being established using MZ data to see if graduating students are successfully finding jobs or if a master's student, for example, is admitted to a PhD program within a certain amount of time of graduating. Therefore, a second research question would be, what are the job placement rates for students graduating from graduate programs that are being established with the support of MZ data? Here is a list of resources that I used. And here are additional resources that I used as well. Thank you.